Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is we have some new information since the last time I've been in community doing presentations. We're going to spend a lot of time, we'll talk really quickly on some of our work to really learn from the Major League Baseball All-Star Game that you can't do this job and not hear about that experience from 2023, and I think we've learned quite a bit about that and are taking some steps to try to do better and learn those lessons. And then we're going to spend a lot of time actually on maps, talking about specific impacts around security, transportation, and mobility. But again, in case you missed it, here is the schedule. A thing to note here is we have match times, and so all of this is new as of December 5th, but the first 3 games are all happening at noon, and every game is on a weekday, so there are no weekend games, although the June 19th game is a holiday. And then we have an 8 p.m. game for our June 26th game. And then we have 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. are the 2 knockout round games. And so the reason I mentioned the times is that a lot of what we'll talk about today talks about when street closures or security perimeters go into effect on match days. And so knowing the match times now is really helpful. The other thing to note is that if you've got a 12 o'clock game, it's sort of positioned perfectly for TV audiences across the world, and it's also positioned perfectly to impact the both morning and afternoon rush hours. And so there are fun parts of these matches, and there are sort of real practical parts of the matches. And if you're a soccer fan, like, it's the greatest thing ever. And if you could care less about soccer, but you're just trying to get through I-5, it could be something that's going to require a lot of planning for. So particularly with small businesses, that's why we're going to spend a lot of time. I think there's all kinds of questions about like timing of deliveries, understanding when customers are likely to be coming and going, and then understanding a little bit about the customers. The thing I want to point out with all the teams that are currently assigned, I'm not here to like traffic in this or that stereotype about a particular nation, but you can start to get some basics, because a lot of the work to help businesses in particular plan for how to take advantage of the opportunity is really about what might the people visiting from other countries be looking for, interested in, or used to. And so we have 2 Arabic-speaking nations coming. There are also food customs around people who are practice the Islamic religion around halal food. We have Belgium. They actually have 3 official languages, and I'm not even going to remember them all right now, but Dutch, German, and there's one more. We obviously have Australia coming. Their main language that they speak, official language, is English. With what you see as UEFA playoff teams, there are 4 teams that could be in that slot: Wales, Northern Ireland, Italy, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. I'm not here to like take odds on which one of those will come, but we'll know by the end of March who that team is going to be. Certainly, if Italy were to qualify, they're the highest ranked team. That would be a team that in and of itself probably carries a lot of international fans, although Wales and Northern Ireland and Bosnia would probably say that they do as well. We do have the Egypt-Iranian match. That one's been in the news because it's on the same night that we kick off our major Pride celebrations here in the city of Seattle. Just to say it, nothing is changing with the way our city celebrates Pride, regardless of who plays in that match. So we're in conversations with a lot of the organizations that plan those events to make sure that they've got what they need in terms of information. We're also talking to FIFA to make sure that they understand how our community shows up for Pride. And then again, these 2 what we call knockout round games, but a round of 32. There's all kinds of versions of who would be in that game, and I'm not here to guess. If the Belgian team, which is very highly ranked, takes first in their group, they would at least play in that match. And then for the folks who are U.S. soccer fans, if the U.S. soccer team does very well and stays first place in its group and then wins its round of 32 match, they would actually come for a round of 16 match here in Seattle, which would be an enormous deal in terms of just attention and local interest. Okay, so that's a big piece of the new information, so that's why I'm spending a little bit of time on it. I'm going to highlight something called a Small Business Playbook later in the presentation, but knowing something about the nations that are playing here and the people that come from those nations, and then some of the advice or the resources that are available in the Small Business Playbook, I think allows businesses to start making informed decisions about, A, do you want to do something related to the World Cup, and then if so, what are some ideas about how that could work? I mentioned the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and so this has been a consistent theme since way back in 2024 when I started this. We are not here to tell any small business what they should do. So we're not going to tell you to stock up. We're not going to tell you to staff up. We're not going to tell you not to stock up. We're not going to tell you not to staff up. Those are business decisions that have real impacts on bottom lines and livelihoods. So the approach that we're taking very consciously is to provide as much information as possible. Part of that's presentations, part of that's websites, part of that's media. Part of that is we have Carmen in the room, and Carmen's actually a full-time, what we call Stadium Neighborhood World Cup liaison. She has the ability to communicate in multiple languages here in the CID. And so that is part of the idea of supporting SCIPDA and the Small Business Relief Task Force to have a full-time person doing this work, is that getting the information out there is really key. And then small businesses, cultural institutions, community service organizations can make decisions for yourselves about what or how you want to get ready for the World Cup. And I've heard everything from I'm closing up shop and I'm taking a vacation to I'm trying to rent a space next door, I'm bringing in a ton of staff and we're going to do a big activation, and everything in between. A little bit about who I am. So despite the fact that you'll see the word FIFA on the slides quite a bit, and it's even underneath the sticker on my vest, I don't work for FIFA. I work for a nonprofit local organizing committee with a bad name called SeattleFWC26. I just say it's bad because it's hard to it doesn't really come off the tongue. But the key points here is that we don't work for FIFA. And the reason I emphasize that is, one, we're in charge of different things. And in many ways, we're focused on different things. I don't work for the government. So there are a lot of really good questions that come up in this that really require a government response. We do share some information that the government has put out sometimes, and so I'm happy to do that as we have it. But at the federal level, sometimes there's questions about immigration. I am not a federal government representative. At the local level, sometimes there's questions about what the street closure policy is and how it got decided. I'll share with you some of those decisions, but our organization is not the one that makes those decisions, although we're happy to provide feedback to them or help you make a direct connection. And then I think the key thing that doesn't immediately make sense to a lot of people is that we're actually not responsible for anything that happens in the stadium. So as the local organizing committee, our job is really outside of the stadium, transportation planning, what we call legacy planning, a little bit more on that in a moment. But it's really FIFA that runs the tournament and runs everything that happens inside of the stadium. So a practical example of why that's important: every now and then someone will come up to me and say, I really know this person who could kill the national anthem and I would love to have that person in the stadium to sing it. I can't be the one who makes those decisions. But sometimes we'll be like, hey, but if that person wanted to sing the national anthem at an event that we're having outside the stadium, let's have that conversation. And so that's a good example of the difference that we're trying to make there. Okay, I'm going to just jump right into a couple of things, and we're going to move very fast. So one of the projects that we're embarking upon to try to learn the lesson and get people out into the neighborhoods is an app called SEA&WIN. You can play, explore locations outside of or all over downtown, and then win prizes. You exchange virtual points for real life prizes. The way the game works is you have to get next to a place in order to be able to play the actual games. And so if Tabletop Village is one of the locations, and it is inside of the app, you actually have to go to Tabletop Village. And so we can't guarantee that they're going to go in and spend money at Tabletop Village, but we're going to do everything we can to get folks there. And then it's really, again, for small businesses, do you want to do something that pulls somebody in once they show up staring at their phone? So it's a little bit like Pokemon Go, although I don't think we're quite that cool. So this is just how you play. One demonstration that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't is once you get close to Tabletop Village, in this case.
You got it, Nadia. Let's go.
She's juggling a AR soccer ball. You can't tell that. She's just looks like she's having fun, but that's the way the game works. And you don't need to hear my voice anymore. The other thing that we're doing in conjunction with the app is we have identified something called the Unity Loop. It's a new curated walk that's going to move through downtown Seattle. You can see the neighborhoods here. This isn't necessarily the most detailed way to show it, but it's basically Seattle Center, stadiums, CID, Central District, Capitol Hill, back downtown, connected by the waterfront. This is a much more detailed way to show it. This will probably show it better in the video that'll come here afterwards. But what it is after many rounds of community feedback over what is now a year and a half, we have really landed on the particular parts of neighborhoods where we're asking for help from local organizations to identify what we call the stops, the dots. And then we're going to have about 350 of them across downtown, and then also including the rest of Washington. And again, these are the small businesses, the actual places where we're trying to drive visitors and residents in an attempt to get more financial benefit, to broaden the benefit of hosting the event. And then the last thing, and I'll mention this because hopefully you'll start seeing these show up throughout the CID relatively soon as we get permission from ISRD, is we are giving for free to small businesses, and we'll only have a limited number, these locally made neon beacons. If you saw the poster or the postcard when you came in, there's this whale tail design made by local artist Shoga Ota. We've turned it into neon signs that are going to be at all different sizes. And what we're really trying to do is get those up into windows and local businesses so that if you don't use the app and if you don't use the map of the Unity Loop, at least somebody can show up from Australia or Qatar and you can say, just look for the whale tails in the windows, and that's a good way to get people out into neighborhoods again. So you'll see those starting to pop up over the course of the next 3 months. Another thing that I want to highlight is if you had gone to some of these presentations, we talked about all these playbooks that were coming. They are all now here. So a number of partners have published, in some cases, very detailed playbooks that provide really useful information for small businesses or culture institutions who want to do a little bit more research. Now, if you're a small business owner, you don't have a bunch of time to sit and read a bunch of stuff in a binder. And so they have done, I think, a very good job of trying to make them really make the point up quick and not belabor it. They're not 40-page long, sort of, paragraph by paragraph by paragraph. There's a lot of diagrams, a lot of checklists. You can use that QR code, and again, it'll be available online afterwards, or you can use that URL to get to all these playbooks, and they're being hosted by the Seattle Metro Chamber. Okay, this is a really hard slide to see. The key point is it's a calendar, and on the calendar there's a number of different information points. One of them is when all the matches are that are going to come in June and July of this year. It has things like when Mariners games will be. Bottom line, there is not a day right now where there will be both a World Cup match and a Mariners game. But there will be Mariners games in between World Cup matches, and Major League Baseball has decided to schedule both the Blue Jays and the Boston Red Sox during the World Cup, which are the two visiting teams that generate the most crowd when they're in town. It shows cruise ships, it shows a lot of different information. It shows when the games are up in Vancouver, BC, so that's another host city. So it's all these different events that might affect how many people are coming in and out of the city and the region. The thing for you all to pay attention to is those colored bars at the bottom. So those are our current forecasts on when you would see typical, slightly elevated, sort of elevated, and really elevated traffic, people coming through our region. And what you can really see is for each game, we expect a lot of people to be in town, and then depending on the game, we expect a lot of people to sort of be out here the day before or the day after. The reason I mentioned that, we talk about information for small business owners. Again, I'm not here to tell you exactly how many people are going to be here on one day and exactly how many staff you should have, but we do want to share our projections of when the most busy days will be and the least busy days will be so that you can make informed decisions about when you might want to do things. And again, I know this one's a little bit of an eye chart, but it'll be up online afterwards, and I'll share these slides with Anne so that we can get them out to anybody who wants them as well. Okay, we're going to go into maps now. But overall, I've made mention now twice of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and it is something that we use to learn lessons from. It's not the only event that we use to learn lessons from. Seahawks events happen. There was one last week. Now there'll be one next week. Those are big events too. What we're doing on this slide is really trying to show that even with the biggest events that come to the stadium, we believe the World Cup will be different, and these are a couple specific ways how we think it'll be different. First is a lot more people coming from a lot further away. And these are folks who don't have a typical pattern here, and they tend to stay for longer. So you can imagine that somebody who makes the 20-hour flight from Australia isn't going to stay in Seattle for 12 hours and then fly back to Australia. Folks are staying here longer. The average in previous World Cups is 7.5 days duration of stay in one place, and that's different than a lot of the events that we see hosted at our stadium. We expect a significantly higher number of dignitaries coming, so heads of state, I had to ask, but what FIFA calls VVIPs, which is apparently very, very important people. I don't know where the line is between one V and two Vs. We're going to see a lot more charter buses. So because we're going to have large groups coming from other nations in many cases or other parts of the country, they're going to get close and then charter up and come in. And so a lot of the transportation planning really accounts for more chartered buses. And then the flow is going to be a lot different into the stadium. I'll just show you a picture of that because it's easier than listening to me babble about it. And then the last thing is event durations. We expect stadium to open up a lot earlier than it would for a typical event and stay open a lot later than it would for a typical event. There's some practical purposes for that to help distribute the sort of flow of the crowd. There's some commercial purposes for that from the folks who are holding business inside of the stadium. And again, I think it's good information for local businesses to know so that if you see a 12 o'clock game, but you know the stadium's going to open up 2 hours beforehand, 10 o'clock, that the thing that somebody might think about that day is whether breakfast is the better meal to be focusing on than lunch. Same thing with a game that lasts up to 3 hours and then the stadium stays open after that. You know, we're really looking at dinner time by the time that that's all done. So again, information for you all to do with what you will with. Okay, safety. This is a different safety outlay than you get for a typical game, even for a Seahawks game. One of the reasons it's different is the number of people who are going to be near the stadium without a ticket we expect to be significantly higher than a Seahawks game. The other is that soccer in particular has a reputation that has been earned over time depending on different stadiums. Like you get crowd crushes. Here in the United States at large sporting events, we've had major sporting events targeted for sort of mass attacks in the past. And so calculating all of that stuff, the red line is a permanent security fence that will be up for the entire time that the World Cup is happening. It basically corresponds to the boundary of the piece of land that the stadium occupies, including the north lot. So north lot's going to be closed off, fenced in. So if you walk your dog, for example, on that grass right next to North Lock, that's not going to be available. It's all going to be fenced in. The black line is a game day only porous or sort of day of perimeter. It won't be fenced. It'll be things like additional security staff, perhaps some barriers along streets, but it's not going to be like a solid fence like the red line will be. So the reason for 2 is that, and the reason why the black line in particular might move is depending on what the crowd is, how the crowd's behaving, what's going on. You could actually see that black line extend out. And the reason for that is trying to get people far enough apart from each other because distance equals time and time equals the ability to react to things. And crowd crushes in particular, which can kill people and kill people every year in different parts of the world, happen when people are just too close together in too large a number. And so that's why we have quite a bit more security spacing than you would see at a typical event. The thing, again, match day restrictions, the black line, become operational, and you can actually see how we applied the timelines to the specific match times for each match. Again, red, every day, black, match days only, and everything else we're about to talk about is match days only. 2 months ago, I showed a version of this slide, which is street closures that had significantly fewer street closures. It was all much further south in Pioneer Square. For this presentation, 2 things to point out. One is there is no street closure currently being planned that will extend into the CID. Now, where a street is officially closed versus where traffic is sort of functionally backed up or there's just a lot of people around, those are very different questions. So I'm not here to say that there will be no traffic impacts, but I'm saying where SDOT and SPD, and they are the deciders in this case, are currently planning for street closures. You can see that's the red lines, and then green lines indicate either bus routes or in some cases like limited one-way vehicle traffic. If you're a resident who lives in these areas and has a garage here, there will be specific abilities to have your car carry a sticker that identifies you so that you can get in and out. But again, it's going to be crowded no matter what, and that ability is going to have to follow a very particular path. So you can imagine we're spending a lot of time with residents of Pioneer Square in particular, really trying to get this information out there. And I have a presentation over there 2 days from now. I don't know if this is going to change again or not, and it could. And so that's the reason we say this is what we know for right now. I've not heard any conversation about street closures extending further east. We're not hearing right now that it would change again. We were starting to hear that it would go further north, and that's in fact what happened. So a thing that we want to emphasize is that particularly for folks who are directly impacted by this, we are still open. We can help take feedback and then get that to SDOT and SPD, who again are the ones who make the decisions about what Seattle streets close and when. Okay, accessibility. So for folks who aren't going to be able to or want to walk for any number of reasons right up to a gate, there are 2 designated point accessibility entrances to the stadium only on match days. And so you can see them here. One's coming off Weller Street Bridge, and then one's on the west side, kind of by the pro shop if you know the stadium really well. Pedestrian flow, this is different. So the so what of this slide is that the majority of people who come into the stadium are all going to enter from the north. The way that the flow will be set up is people will come from east or west, but then come up to Pioneer Square and then enter the stadium from the north over Occidental and some of the other streets there. There'll be relatively limited entry to the stadium from the south, from the west, and then you all know, the existing entries are relatively modest from the east. This is a diagram of mass transit, so really light rail. And it's just showing the know before you go information that'll start coming out in March. It's going to include a lot of this. If you're coming from the north, we're going to try to get people to come off at the Pioneer Square station. If you're coming from East Link, which should be open at that point, you'll get off at the CID station. And then if you're coming from the south, getting off at Stadium Station and then reversing that on the way back out. Micromobility, Lime scooters, basically, things like that. Based off some initial community feedback we've already gotten with the help of a lot of the folks in this room, we've already seen this boundary shift to the east. But what this is really showing is there's going to be a very large swath of ground where there will be no ability to operate a Lime scooter or a bike. That's the orange square. And then the purple square, you'll have to move slower, and you'll only be able to end your session if you put it in a designated corral area. So they're using the GPS function on the scooters and bikes to make sure that people are using them in the right locations. The so what here is that we got a lot of feedback from previous conversations with folks in the CID to get the boundary off of 4th so that 4th doesn't just become littered with a bunch of scooters, and that's why it's shifted over one street to the east. A similar conversation here with rideshare now, although it goes further to the east. So that blue line, and you can see the street closures, is showing where rideshare will not be able to drop off or pick up. And they're really doing this through the apps themselves, so the app won't recognize somebody who wants to be picked up inside of that zone or dropped off inside of that zone. They'll have to come up to the boundary and then get off. A thing to pay attention to, particularly for the CID and CID-based businesses, is I have no idea how many people are going to use rideshare, but folks that are on 5th should know that that's going to be the sort of boundary, and so you would expect to see a lot more people either waiting for or getting off of rideshare at that point. That's a ton of information relatively quickly, but my 25-minute alarm did just go off. I'm going to be hanging around to answer any questions that you might have. Does anybody know where this is?
Harbor Steps.
That's right, Harbor Steps. This is another of the big murals. You can't actually tell here, it's 17 stories tall, that we are commissioning as part of the Unity Loop project. There's more public art to come. I'll be excited to share that as we go. Our overall point in this presentation, again, is to get you all information, to get folks who are watching afterwards on TV or waiting for the translated subtitles to get the information, so that you can make good decisions for your business as the world's largest sporting event comes to our city in now like 5 months. There are going to be huge opportunities. There are going to be impacts. For soccer fans, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can make a decision about whether you want to be around for that or you want to go on vacation, but we wanted you to have the information for all of that. That's what I got.
Thanks, Leo.
So I will do a very quick overview about the CID Small Business Relief Team and kind of what we've been up to in the last year in preparation for the World Cup. So this SBRT is a collaboration of 3 community-based organizations, SCIPDA, the Business Improvement Area, and the Friends of Little Saigon. And our work is kind of year-round small business support. At a high level, we do a number of things. We are in charge of communications to small businesses. So we translate and send out through email, in-person outreach, and text to you all. We assist businesses with grants and find funding and project manage for projects that improve the overall small business district. And I'm sure, hopefully some of you are familiar with this outreach flyer. This is the team of on-the-ground staff that are part of our small business relief team. So now zooming into what the SBRT has been doing with respect to World Cup only. And I know this is a lot of text, so I'm gonna walk y'all through it. Each color is a different year. So in 2023, that's when our conversations with Leo and the LOC team really began. And from that, we realized that we needed to ask businesses kind of what was the most important thing with respect to World Cup businesses want to know, and how should we get that information out. So that was the first survey that we did in early 2024. We also did the info session that I mentioned at the beginning that is available in video in 3 languages on our website. In 2025 was a lot of additional community engagement and outreach. We did a second survey that asked businesses kind of deeper level questions and opportunities and challenges that folks saw that we could help meet. We also had 2 in-person planning workshops with service providers and business owners to think about more about transportation in a deeper way and operational needs, and what folks are thinking about in terms of activation and events as a neighborhood. We then took the feedback that we heard from these planning workshops and these surveys and compiled them into what we are calling the CID Neighborhood Resiliency Strategies or Advocacy Plan. So this is a combination of all the feedback we've heard from you all and your peers with respect to, on the ground services coordination, marketing, outreach, and I'll share that in a little bit more detail. But we've since then taken those strategies and used that as a talking point to our government partners at the city, at the county, to make sure that CID needs are being elevated and heard and resourced where possible. We've also done digital marketing workshops and continue to gather information with the help of the LOC and other partners. And we have also staffed up. So, Carmen, there she is. Most of you are probably familiar with Carmen. So she is the CID Sports Economy Coordinator. So her role specifically is to be that liaison between everything that is coming down, not only from the LOC, but from the city, from all the planning entities that are involved with the World Cup. And Carmen's role is to share that information out to small businesses. Carmen and I are tag teaming the outreach. She'll focus on the small business side, and then I'll focus on the service provider side. But you can email either of us, and we'll make sure that your questions and answers get to the right people. But Carmen's role is really to make sure that you all have the right information. And like Leo said, we're not here to tell you what to do with your business or your organization, but we will share as much information as we know so that you can make an informed decision about how to move forward. We will also be planning 3 neighborhood watch parties, one in Huamai Park on June 24th, one in Hinghe Park, July 11th, thank you, and then one in the Theater off Jackson, July 19th. More to come, but we're imagining these as watch parties kind of for the immediate area, for residents who live here, community folks, will take place in, very beloved and familiar public spaces. So more on that to come later. And then Carmen has colleagues in Pioneer Square in Soto who are doing similar liaison roles, and so we're partnering very closely and in close communication with those folks in the other stadium neighborhoods as well. To come, so these are the things that we will make sure to communicate with you all about upcoming resources that the Small Business Relief Team is putting on. So today, this is the second of 3 info sessions. We'll have another one this spring, date TBD, info TBD. That's what we hope to get the feedback from you today with that survey. We want to know what information would be helpful to share at that point in time. As Leo mentioned, there are other resources that other organizations have produced, like playbooks. There's playbooks focused on hosting your own watch party, around branding, what not to do and what to do, because there are strict things around not using FIFA-specific branding. So we shouldn't be saying World Cup. We can say the specific match. We shouldn't be using FIFA's logo. But there is a Seattle-specific logo that Visit Seattle has created for us all to use and change up as we like, because FIFA is so strict with that. And then there's the Small Business Preparedness Playbook, which literally just came out last week, which we are still digesting, and we'll figure out how to kind of best share that with all of you. And then I think as we get closer to the games, one thing that we're thinking of providing is one-on-one consultations with businesses, and we really want to figure out how best to do that, if we should be coming to you or having certain windows where you come to us. This is a very high-level summary of what we've heard from all of the community engagement that we've done so far. I think in general, we're hearing a lot of excitement and a lot of kind of challenges that folks are anticipating with just access to the neighborhood, and how we can bolster up existing services to make sure that this neighborhood is getting what it needs because we are expecting so many people to come to the area. So I'll let you kind of scan through that, but I would also say there's a lot of interest in what our individual businesses and organizations can do with watch parties and promoting the CID and creating a more positive image and marketing for folks coming to the area as well. All right, so going back to what I said earlier, the SBRT basically took all the feedback that we heard, and then we made them into these resiliency strategies. And this is, and the goal of these strategies is kind of a starting point for conversations with decision makers at the city and funders who can help us move forward these initiatives that we've been hearing. The resiliency strategies fall into 5 buckets. So there's essential services and coordination, events and activation, CID Sports Economy Coordinator, which is Carmen's role, neighborhood marketing, and neighborhood improvements. So the caveat that I'll say here is that all of these kind of projects that you see within these buckets are at varying levels of possibility and progress. But I did try to include the things that I know at the very least our partners are considering or already moving forward, and there is some funding. But each one is a little bit different. So if you want more detail about any of these, I'm happy to talk afterwards. And then Twin's presentation, she'll also share a lot more about the neighborhood marketing aspect. But as you can see, we're kind of thinking about it in a very holistic way to make sure that we're reducing any possible friction that this neighborhood plans to kind of absorb during these games. And we're also thinking about fun ways to draw people to the neighborhood, and with watch parties and other events, and making sure that our neighborhood is, all the lights are on, all the signs are cleaned and refreshed, and doing what we can. All right, existing resources. So Carmen is your go-to for small business questions. We have also created an FAQ that lives on the BIA's page, where you can read through all of the questions you might have. It's also translated into Chinese and Vietnamese. The info session video that I mentioned is also online. Those are the resources that the SBRT has produced, the yellow ones. And then the red ones are the kind of external resources that our other organizations have produced. So like I mentioned, the Watch Party Playbook, if you want to host your own watch party, the brand new Small Business Readiness Playbook that has a lot of checklists that can help guide a business through what to prepare, for example, like staffing or just large event preparedness guidance. And then the Community Branding Playbook is the brand that you can download and kind of make it your own and know that you will not be upsetting anyone at FIFA for the branding that you decide to do. And then this is my last slide. Other resources to come. This presentation will be available in video with subtitles and then an upcoming spring info session. All right. I will pass it now to Twin.
So my name is Twin, and I'm the Executive Director for the CID Business Improvement Area. And what that means is it's a nonprofit organization that's funded by businesses and also property owners. So we pool our money together, and from that fund, we use that to enhance services like sanitation, safety, and we also organize the night market, food walk, and Lunar New Year. So we're focused on clean and safe streets, marketing, advocacy. So we're a connector between businesses, community partners, and also the city of Seattle. So touch a lot of departments there. So World Cup, why does this matter? It matters because World Cup is going to bring people. Events bring people. People spend money. Businesses like money. And then the marketing tools that we are going to present today will give you an idea of something that you can either use or not use. It's completely optional. That's my disclaimer. Participation is not mandatory. These are just ideas. We wanted to give you a heads up on like how we're preparing for the influx of people that's coming to the neighborhood. So this is also a calendar that may or may not show up well right here. But essentially, we have 3 different organizations, the BIA, SCIDBIA/SBRT, and also the International District Community Center. And there are various events all throughout the month of June. The blue is IDCC. It's this teen soccer mini World Cup, Hinghey Park watch party, FIFA trivia, another watch party, and then the items in red are the events that the BIA is specifically in charge of. So June 18th is going to be our CID Summer Kickoff, which is a collaboration between the BIA and also the Wing Luke. It's a combination of the CID Block Party with Jam Fest, and it's a kickoff to FIFA World Cup, but also just the summer, because summer solstice is on the 21st, and we want to bring in a lot of momentum. The overall marketing campaign, we're calling it Kick It in the CID. So what that looks like is businesses will have various promotions that will curate and promote as part of this one single shared marketing campaign. So Kick It in the CID, CID Summer Kickoff. When people come to the neighborhood, they'll come back. Lots of ideas. So the month of July, the promotional week, Kick It in the CID, is going to run from June 15th to July 5th. After July 5th, there's going to be various watch parties. There's going to be a food walk on July 11th with SCIDBIA, and also another watch party on the 19th. So a lot of really exciting things. How it all works together with the BIA, how we're all bringing this together is we have an event, which is the summer kickoff. We have a campaign, Kick It in the CID. We have a tool, which is the CID tourism brochure, or the Visit CID, if we're stealing from Visit Seattle. And then we also have support, which is small business grants, but also through the CID Visioning Group, and also this program called the Small Biz Accelerator Project through UW and Seattle University. The goal at the end of this, when soccer comes and goes and the summer is over, the goal for me and for the organization is we want to make sure that people have the capacity. They have funds to be able to put things on. We want to bring people to this neighborhood on purpose, not just on accident. And then we also want to make sure that we're supporting the businesses beyond World Cup. So we have these tools, we have this program to support businesses. Everything that you're learning, everything that you're doing right now is going to build this foundation for beyond World Cup, beyond the summer, and hopefully in the future. And then at the end of this, we want a neighborhood that feels intentional and a neighborhood that feels alive and looks good and clean, all the things. We want it to feel good and alive and happening. So more people, more reasons to stay, more support for businesses. So there is going to be a QR code at the end of this presentation, but how businesses can join is we have an interest form. You can opt in for either more information or very specific information. There's going to be business listings on our website, calendar event listings, and then we're also going to provide campaign graphics for the Kick It in the CID campaign as well. So funds for funds, what does that mean? So the CID Visioning Group prioritized FIFA as something that they wanted to tackle. So there was a subcommittee, they all met. There was another subcommittee called Public Safety, and then they combined the subcommittees into forming this mega subcommittee. And of all the funds that they allocated for these committees, they wanted to get money into the hands of businesses and nonprofits as quickly as possible. So it's not necessarily for FIFA, but it is going to be released before FIFA, so you can prepare. But you will have to spend the money by the end of the year. The mini grants range from $2,500 to $5,000, but we'll know more at the end of this month when we have the application. And you can use the funds to create your own activations. You can also use it for signage as well. So yes, what this means: watch parties, food and drink specials, pop-ups, in-store events, signage, cultural programming. You decide what fits for your business at whatever scale. And the CIDBIA can help you promote it district-wide. And also we'll be putting together a very light activation menu that's paired with this mini grant application. So you have, if you don't have any ideas on what an activation would look like in your space, we'll have ideas for you. So bring people here on purpose. What does that look like? So we know that FIFA World Cup is happening in June, but right before June is May. And what's really important about this event is, one, it's happening in May during AA&HPI month. So there's a lot of, Asian American AA&HPI events happening. Two, this neighborhood has a high density of family-owned, immigrant-owned restaurants. Three, we like dim sum. And four, we like to win. So this idea was actually inspired by the world record soccer event that happened, soccer lesson that happened last year. And I was doing some digging, and Guinness, the current record holder for, and it's actually the largest number of participants eating dim sum, is in Australia, and the current number is 800. And from our little quiz earlier, we know that the USA men's team is going against Australia on the Juneteenth game. So we at least know that 800 Australians like to eat dim sum. So wouldn't it be great to take, before we beat Australia at soccer, or however that works, wouldn't it be great if we could take away the world record from Australia ahead of the World Cup, just to, change this perception of the neighborhood, bring people together, eat some really good food. And this is, not every restaurant is going to be dim sum, but there are a lot of ideas that we could do around dim sum. It could be merch, it could be like just something that's round. It could be, this is why I actually brought this out. It's like a little bow, and it's a stress ball. So, there's a lot of different ideas, and I think that with the World Record Dim Sum event, there's going to be a lot of PR that comes with it, but not to say that, don't stock up. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. I'm not saying any of that, but this is something that we're going to be working on ahead of the World Cup as people are starting to plan around their trips. So positive attention, optional opportunities, yes. 5, okay, oh shoot, okay. Participation, spin-off, flexibility engage in events, support from the CID, and then the marketing campaign, kick it in the CID. June 15th to the 4th, promote your activation, encourages visitors to explore the district, the CID as a destination. Okay, and then the CID summer kickoff, which is the collaboration between the Wing Loop and the BIA, is going to be the day before Juneteenth. So the 19th, the Juneteenth is the 19th. Yes, I won't read that. Okay, visit CID brochure. This is just an example of something that we're working on, which is bringing together all the businesses, nonprofits, services into an easy to grab printed brochure that we're going to be distributing to businesses, cruises, maybe airlines, ferries, other partner organizations, other neighboring businesses, either something like this or something like this, which is like a pocket brochure. We're still deciding, but those are a few of the avenues, vehicles of how we're going to get people to the neighborhood and how people will know what to do once they arrive. Not everyone's going to have a charger on them. If their phone dies, having something physical might be a little bit more accessible. So distribution plan, hotels, concierge, businesses, airports. So make the CID feel alive and welcoming. How are we going to do that? So we're working on installing more lanterns in the neighborhood. We want lanterns on King Street. We're going to fill in more lanterns on Hinghey Park so that when people come to the neighborhood, they feel comfortable. It feels warm and inviting. And better evening atmosphere. Another thing that we're working on is street pole banners. So by the end of this month, we're going to be releasing an RFP/design contest. So people can submit concepts or designs for street pole banners. This is going to be a partnership through the SBRT and SDOT, and we're going to be printing a number of street pole banners all throughout the neighborhood, all the way to Little Saigon. Supporting small businesses and beyond. So I mentioned earlier that we have this partnership with the University of Washington and Seattle University. It's the Small Biz Accelerator project. And it'll help businesses to figure out, okay, I have this grant, I got this funding, and I want to do this activation, but I also have to run my business. I need some help. How do I, how do I streamline my operations? How do I market this? How do I do all these things, right? Because when you're a business owner, you're wearing a ton of different hats, and you have to be a content creator, you have to be your accountant, you have to be, your supplier or whatever. You have to be everything, right? So what this means for you, if you are all interested in being a part of it, right? It's free support, hands-on support with marketing. They'll provide, they might help you with like a very simple 3 to 4 page website, operations, inventory, very, very light accounting, planning for busy periods. So if you have like an influx of people coming in, how do you make sure that everything is locked in so that you can accommodate all those people so they don't have to wait hours? And it's designed to just help you handle the traffic flow now, World Cup, and after. So all in all, the CID just works. The CID works best, and we work better together. I want to share this with you all because this will only work if you want to do it. So I'm not saying you should do it. I'm saying that these are opportunities. And if you are interested in being a part of either the Small Biz Accelerator project, learning more about the grants, learning more about the World Record Dim Sum event, or the Kick It in the CID marketing campaign, you can scan the QR code and sign up there. And then afterwards we can do some check-in conversations. I also have business cards right here if you want to grab that instead.